welcome to this webinar organized by EAS, the European Association of Scouts. My name is Erwin. In daily life, I'm a freelance host and moderator of events, and I'm also working as head of press and media for Royal Antwerp Football Club in Belgium. I'm honored to be your host today. Our keynote speaker is a household name in football, the current technical director of the Belgian Football Association, Vincent Mannaert. I will talk with Vincent about a lot of topics during the upcoming 60 minutes. And you, as attendees, can ask questions during the presentation by using the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen, and we will handle them in the Q&A session after the presentation. This session will also be recorded and saved to the website of EAS for access afterwards. So, Vincent, thank you for joining us, and good evening.
Good evening. Good evening to all of you as well.
Thank you. Many of our listeners, Vincent, will already know you, but to include those who may be less familiar with Belgian football, please introduce yourself and tell us a bit about your journey in football, please.
Well, first of all, I'm a football passionate, I think, as most of you, since pretty much I was born. I played football myself. I was not the best, but I managed to become a player of the Anderlecht Academy, to play for Belgium in the youth teams, and then to play 3 professional years in Belgian football. Afterwards, I took the wise decision to put more efforts in my studies. I went to university, I obtained a law degree, and after that, I rejoined football by advising players, coaches, players with whom I played, like 𝙑𝙑𝙘𝙚𝙑𝙑 𝙈𝙤𝙙𝙑𝙑, coaches like Jan Keulemans and Trond Scholjed. And after a while, I got the opportunity to become the CEO of Zulte Waregem, who is a smaller club in Belgium. At that stage, was just promoting from 2nd division to 1st division in Belgium, and where I had a fantastic opportunity to learn more about club management overall, and to make this club together with mainly the president, Willy Naessens, and also the coach, Frankie Drie, to make that club to become a stable club in Belgium 1st division, ending up in the playoffs, in the first edition of the playoffs that was held in, I think it was 2010. And afterwards, I was contacted by Club Brugge to join them as a CEO shareholder. That's the same mandate I had in Zulte Waregem. So I was also a shareholder in Zulte Waregem, which was for me quite important. Maybe we can refer to that later on. So I then went to Club Brugge to become the CEO. And there we started in a more difficult situation, because the club was at that moment like number 4, number 5 in the league, and was a bit old-fashioned, where things need to be restructured and changed. And I went for this challenge, and after a while, it worked. Together with some people in the club, together we worked hard, and we pushed on the right button, sometimes on the wrong button, and we felt it. But I've did that for 13 years, and then I thought it was okay to leave it over to other people. And since 1 December of 24, I'm the sports director of the national team of Belgium, of the Royal Belgian Football Association, and we're very happy to be qualified for the World Cup. So that's more or less my professional pedigree, and so really happy to join this meeting.
Yeah. Which of these chapters did you enjoy the most?
Well, every chapter has this I would say, charm. It's to be in Zulte Waregem was really to build up a club from semi-professional level to professional level. It was a great adventure. I could make a lot of mistakes, but there was time to have the opportunity to learn from these mistakes and then to avoid these mistakes later on. When I went to Club Brugge, of course, the expectations were higher, but there as well, you feel that you are living in or you're working for a club that has so many fans, that had a rich potential of getting this club really to the very top of the Belgian football, and then later on also to play our part in Europe. And now in the federation, it's different in a way that it's more strategic. You don't have the every week challenge of winning the game. You more have to focus on qualifying for tournaments and then outperform there. So it leaves some time to have an impact on how the Belgian football should develop for the future. So every challenge has its charm and its upsides.
Yeah, you already mentioned lessons learned. Can you name just the most important lesson learned so far in your career?
Well, actually, yes. It's the most important lesson is that don't live with the score. So one score of one game, it's just one night or one day, and stick to the plan you have developed. Another very important lesson is that you have to, either you're working for a club or a federation, you have to be very close with the people you work with. For me, that's actually key. That if you work together in this business, which is enormously emotional, where there is always media, where there are always fans, you have to work together with a group of people that that stays together in the good times, but also in the bad times. And those two things, I think, are very important.
All right. Let's take a closer look at your time in club football, so Zulte Waregem and Club Brugge. As you mentioned, the two clubs differ greatly in structure, in philosophy, financial resources. To put it in black and white terms, Zulte Waregem was a small club. How did you manage to bring in the necessary professionalism?
Well, for me, there are four things that are key in developing a football club and maintaining the level of a football club. And this is in the ranking is in terms of importance. So one is culture. Every football club has an identity, has a culture, and you have to define it. Where do we stand for? Why does our fans stick to this club? And why other fans dislike this club? This is something to cherish, because it is something that makes you unique. This is the identity. So it starts
the DNA of the club.
It starts with this. This is who we are. Secondly, it's the people. You need to become successful. You need people with expertise that are complementary, but secondary. Those people they all need to stick to this culture that was mentioned before.
Yeah.
So experts, but also sticking to the culture. Thirdly, you have the structure. Many clubs make the mistake by putting the structure as number one. But if it would be like this, then it would be very simple, because you have like a structure. Okay, this is like I will make a I would make a presentation, and then I would say, okay, this is the structure. No, but the structure is there to facilitate the people to know their mandate, to know their responsibilities, and also to know the mandates and responsibilities of their colleagues. So it's only in the third row, but it's still important. And the fourth one is stability. Everything needs time. If you set up the culture in the right way, if you have the right people, if you have a good structure, give it time. Because one of the reasons why this sport is so popular is because of the predictability of the, you know, the big one, David and Goliath. David can win to Goliath, and that's also nice. But if you are Goliath and you lose against David, don't doubt yourself, because this can happen. This is the sport. This is the sport factor, and this is something you have to accept. But stick to the plan, stick to the culture, stick to your people, stick to the structure, and give it time. And stability needs to be dynamic, because it doesn't have to be like static. It needs to be dynamic, meaning that you have to be on the evolutions that occur, whether it's machine learning, whether it's artificial intelligence. You need to embrace this. If you just say stability is there, like to never change anything, it's not good. So it's a dynamic stability. And if you respect those four factors, then I believe if you do it in the right way, you will be successful.
Okay. Giving it time, you said, but yeah, time, difficult concept in football.
It's difficult, but nevertheless, when I speak now for the audience I'm speaking to, mainly people from the scouting department or head scouts, you have to prepare yourself. I know that the possibilities to work are limited because there are not so many clubs that can afford a good scouting department. But nevertheless, be also vigilant, be demanding for the people that ask you to become their scout or their head scout, because you have to know what is the culture, what is the decision process, people, what is the structure, what is expected from myself, and then will I get time? Because if you hire a scout, for instance, or a head scout, even now, we are like the 8th of December, and to say, well, make it a very successful winter mercato, well, that's very easily said, but it's not always correct, because you only have you're too late. So you can only make a really good analysis of the squad that you have now, and then you have to say, okay, this is maybe the most important link that is missing. Let's focus on this link. So my advice to the audience is, try to be very demanding also. If they ask you to come and to join a club, or if they ask you to do some things, give some counterweight, and tell them, try to tell them. And I know sometimes it's not difficult, and it's not easy, and sometimes you're a bit scared with maybe, but if I am going to be too demanding, they will sack me, they will throw me out. But stick to your professionalism. And if you have a quality sports director, he will understand. He will understand why you're saying, don't think that on 2 weeks I can solve all your problems. And that's why I'm speaking about stability. And also, don't be afraid to show it. Because if you're not respecting yourself in your expertise, then you will get, it's going to be very difficult. So I know that time is an issue, but owners and board members need to understand that success in football is also a matter of patience.
Yeah, which you proved at Club Brugge, for example. I've already received a question which fits at this time. Normally the questions are for afterwards, but this question comes at the right moment. It's a question from Alexander. How does the culture differ at the various levels you have worked in Belgium?
Well, it's a lot of it has a lot to do with what is my position in the pyramid of national and international football. So when I was at Zulte Waregem, I needed only to have a look at the pyramid in national football because I was not a part of international football. So I knew that there were like 5, 6 clubs that were that had so many that had another level of financial possibilities. So I wanted to be the first club after these 5 or 6 clubs that had structurally more possibilities than my club. So it has a lot to do with what are your capabilities, and I don't, well, I always find it very interesting to see a club that pops up and does an overperformance one year. But for me, it's more important how to do it in 3, 5, even 7 years. So my answer to the question is: look at yourself, look at your recurrent financial possibilities, and then try to be ambitious but realistic.
Okay.
I think the best example is the club you're working for, Erwin, where at a certain moment there were a lot of financial possibilities, and there was like a unique season to become and best team of the country and winning the cup. But the moment when the financials became an issue, it was clearly and logically more difficult to obtain the same results, even with the same people, because it was the same CEO, it was the same sports director, it was the same communications director I'm looking at. But it's just also knowing your place and your position in the pyramid of football.
Okay, very clear. Thank you. In both clubs, Vincent, how important was the role and the impact of the scouting department for you?
Well, it was key. And why? Because we were both teams from the Belgian league. You have to know that there are several levels in the international pyramid of football. The 5 top competitions, they make mainly more recurring revenues from the commercial side, meaning sponsorships and also media rights. And so these are England, Germany, Italy, Spain, and France. France, a bit struggling. And then you have Belgium, you have Portugal, you have Holland, and they already have a different business model because we don't get as much, and certainly not now, media rights. We don't have as much commercial revenues. We have to do it with transfer incomes. We have to do it with performances in preferably Champions League or very good performances in Europe League. So it all has to do with knowing your position and knowing the ins and outs from the international football pyramid. So this is something that we knew. I knew when I was at Zulte Waregem. I understood that I needed to sell players. I needed to get players cheap and to sell them for more money. So I needed to think, okay, where can I differ with teams like Kortrijk, with teams like Westerlo, with teams like, Sint-Truiden. And I came to the to the conclusion, together with the people from Kortrijk at that moment, that France was a very interesting market because we're not with Waregem, being in Waregem is close to the French border. So, and France is, together with Brazil, the main factory of talent in football. So we put a focus and an emphasis on the French market, the lower divisions, and it made us to sign and to find 𝙑𝙬𝙙𝙾𝙬𝙑𝙑𝙑, who became second top scorer in Belgium for €20,000. 𝙑𝙬𝙙𝙾𝙬𝙑 was a player that we sold to Standard, but we took him for zero money. Delaplace, who also made a great career afterwards to go to Lille. So this was in Zulte Waregem. If you don't have money, you have to think. You have to be more proactive, faster. You have to be more creative. And then when I was in Club Brugge, I had more budget, so I could focus on some countries that were internationally not overwhelmed by the bigger competitions. I remember that in Brazil and Argentina, we were always like, third or fourth or fifth. So I said, well, let's dive into, for instance, Colombia, because this is an area, this is a country where the big leagues are less interested in. Yeah. And so we were able to get Carlos Bacca, who became top scorer in Belgium, who then went to Sevilla and later on to AC Milan. We took Izquierdo, who became best player of the league and then went to Premier League to Brighton. So it's a way of knowing your position and focus on where you can be the one that is stronger. Yeah. And so we made a map when we were at Club Brugge. We took the world map and we said, okay, where can we make the difference? It will not be in England, Germany, in France, in Italy or Spain. It will not be in Brazil, Argentina, but maybe it will be in a smaller competition where we can be the number one. So let's try, let's investigate, and then let's put some effort in it. And once you have one that has succeeded, you can use him as an example to others. I remember that we could use Bacca to get Izquierdo in. I remember that we could use Perisic to get a young Croatian in. So it's about knowing your position. Yeah. And don't want to fight when you're a middleweight. Don't fight in the heavyweight because you will be hammered.
Was there also an evolution in scouting teams you worked with? Teams getting bigger and bigger?
I wouldn't just say bigger and bigger, but smarter and smarter. Also, because of the data that was available. So I was the first in Belgium when I was in Zulte Waregem to work with Wisecout. And I was also always very open to innovation. When I was working for Club Brugge, we developed our own database system with people from the University of Ghent that came on board, and to see how machine learning, how artificial intelligence could help us. But I always try to keep the balance. By this, I mean that I'm convinced that machine learning, data, and AI are not the goal. They're like a tool. Yeah. And you also have to do both things. And I always still stick to people that have an eye, because it's a people business. And AI and machine learning have a lot of advantages, but they still cannot read people. And this is a people business where you have to, and moreover, it's a collective. It's a collective. If you want to be successful in football, you need to have the best team.
Yeah.
And data is in a way, it's very interesting. I'm fan, but it's very it's a very individual tool. And the art of all of it is to integrate the wisdom of the eye, the human eye, with the computer data.
Yeah. Another question fitting right at this moment. How do you go about developing a good network in those countries you select to go and find talent? It's a question from Francisco.
Well, it's a very good question. You have to invest in it. You have to really go there, speak to the people, the key people from clubs. You have to speak to coaches. You have to speak with players. You have to speak with people from the federation. And if the advantage of selecting and really focus on certain countries is that you can invest in it. So once you've taken a decision to go for certain markets, you have to go all in, all in, and you have to have one ambition. That's to be the number one in that country, in that market.
Yeah. Okay. Let's make a smooth transition, Vincent, from your work at clubs to your current job as the technical director at the Belgian Football Association. It's a different way of dealing with players, no?
Absolutely. The biggest difference is that what I call, you don't have the payroll power. So by this I mean that when you're working at a club and you really want to have an impact on a player, it's more easy because you pay the player. In a national team, you don't pay the player. You pay some bonuses, but to be honest, for a national team like Belgium, but many others, it's like play money for them. So it's more difficult to be really impactful on those players. Secondly, you only have them for certain periods, so they're gone after 10 days. Okay, at the World Cup or at European Championship, it's different. But so you have to find a way how you have to rethink yourself in how to get the best out of these players. And for now, and I hope it can be successful next year in 26 at the World Cup. But it's more like, okay, how can I make these players to feel good, to feel connected with themselves and with the team in a way that they are ready to perform at their max.
So it's also a personal challenge for you, I guess.
Absolutely. It made me thought, because the way I used to manage players is not a way to get the best out of the players in the national team. Because this would mean that I'm too much on them, and I need to take some distance. And then to be ready to facilitate, to make sure that there are as less as possible excuses to perform, but I have to stay out of it and to learn in a way to find a trust with the main players in a different way. And this is why this is what made me think. And I was really very happy. And it's very, very recent, because 2 hours ago, I got a call from our captain, national team captain, Juri Tielemans, who called me and he said, yes, how was it? How do you think the base camp will be? How do you think the hotel will be? I'm very pleased with the efforts that the national team is doing and you're doing, because I'm happy with the fact that you're already on it. So, and this gives me a good feeling, literally.
Of course. Yeah, absolutely.
But but Yuri is at Aston Villa, so we need to call. I will go there. I will go to see my vice captains and Yuri, but it's a different way. You know, you have to be more like I would say like a guide than a boss.
Yeah.
It's like you're more a guide than a boss. In a club, you
And
need to be a
maybe
boss.
also the glue between the players.
No, between players, they need to find a
That's for
solution themselves.
Okay.
I can be the glue between them and the staff, preferably not too much, but also the glue with everything around it.
Yeah.
So it's my job to create an environment with no excuses to perform.
Okay. I see another difference between dealing with players. In a club, it's about recruitment. In the federation, it's about selection.
Yes, true. And another one is in a club, it's a lot about not always, but it's a lot about development. In the federation, it's about winning.
Yeah.
So we have the advantage of being very severe when it comes to making choices. We can pick the best players that we believe are the best players, and we can demand results, direct results, because even in the World Cup, we have the players with us. The first game is on the 15th because the preparation you have to forget, but the first game is at the 15th. And our third game of the group is on the 26th, meaning that we have 11 days to preferably win 3 games. So we have to demand results. In a national team, it's not a process, it's a delivery.
Yeah.
And this is something that is different from club. Yeah.
Another question on the right moment. How do you follow the players that are in the radar of the federation? Do you have an analytics area to centralize all the information that may come from the clubs where the players are?
Yes, absolutely. One of the key, I would say, objectives of myself was to improve the communication between federation and the clubs. So we have now a really good communication with the clubs in Belgium, but also abroad, because they have the daily input on data, on performances. So that's an important one. And yes, it's all about finding the right way to communicate with the clubs internally in the federation with the players. So I think this is key.
Yeah. How is the scouting organized at the Belgian Football Association?
Well, scouting has made some changes in that, because we had a scouting department that was looking at players that were not even playing for professional teams. And again, for me, a national team, the goal is to win. It's not about developing. It's about the clubs. And if I look at the level of working, the professionalism that is now installed into the best Belgian clubs, and also in the clubs that are delivering national team players abroad, then we don't have to reinvent this. We don't have to reinvent the wheel, nor do we have to say, oh, we can find better fire than you did. No, we have to work together. So our scouts, before I came, were looking for that one that was not detected by 20 professional teams in Belgium. Well, I came from a team that was supplying a lot of players for the national team, but I looked at my colleagues also, and I knew, and I know, and I'm convinced that this is not the job of the federation. We should believe in our clubs. We should even facilitate them to do the work, and then we have to select from the selections that were made by the clubs. All the rest is a waste of time. And if there is one like white, I don't know, how do they call it, a white a white raven. If there's one white raven out there, he will, at a certain moment, he will be there.
Yeah.
And people tell me now, yeah, but Dries Mertens or Thomas Meunier. Yes, true. But we're talking here about 15 to 20 years ago. So you cannot compare the actual current situation with 15 or 20 years ago.
Okay. A very recent challenge, Vincent, persuading players with dual nationality to choose your country. And that's not an easy task, I guess.
No, but the only thing you can do there, and that's actually the line I've drawn, is that we have to present them what we believe of the player, what we can offer him without promises, far from paying money, because this is something we will never do. And if at the end the player takes another decision, we have to respect it.
Yeah.
I believe, and that's also the initiative I took, I wrote a letter to FIFA that the current regulations are not good, because you can change even if you played for the first team for a country, you can change afterwards. I think it's not okay. I think my proposal was and is that at the age of 18, you take a decision within 30 days, 1 month, to say, okay, this is my country. If you don't take a decision, it will be the last country you played with or for. That will be your football country. If you haven't been selected before you were 18, you can choose, clearly. But now the regulations are opening up so many things. I remember that when I was negotiating the transfer of Igor Thiago from 𝙑𝙘𝙘𝙧, Bulgaria, to Belgium, that I mentioned, I said, well, the price is too high because this is a non-European player that in 10 days, they managed to get him the Bulgarian nationality. Sorry, but this is not possible in Belgium. This is not possible in other countries. And if FIFA will not change this rule, nationality will become a bargain. It will become like a market. And I think this is not a good thing.
Yeah. A report from last week, Vincent. Jan Vertongen, record international for the Red Devils. He will be doing an internship with you as part of the Football First vision. What does that mean, this Football First vision?
Well, a Football First vision is that at whatever federation, at whatever club you're working, it's about football. And to be very honest, I was at the draw in Washington. I missed a bit the Football First thing because I wanted. There were so many great players from the past. There were youth heroes that were there, but we looked at a certain show where there was not enough football. So I'm an ambassador for putting football first, and that made me very happy to see that Jan Vertongen and some others that are willing to invest not only in a coaching career, which I think it's worthwhile or it's worthful, but also in a management role, because football is about getting people on the pitch with a ball, no matter what age, no matter what gender, no matter what ability, and to see people with a track record, yeah, like Jan Vertongen, to be, and who is financially independent. You know, Jan could be on the Seychelles Islands for the rest of his life, but there's still this fire that connects all of us, also my audience, with the love for the game, and to have someone there that says, okay, I want to step into this football first thing, because the most important fight I fought when I came to the Belgian Federation was to put football back on the agenda, not only like on agenda point number 10, but number 1. And this is something that some people tend to forget, that they talk about, I don't know, they talk about entertainment, they talk about other non-sports things, and you will never hear me say that they are not important. But everyone has to respect the thing that it all started with 11 against 11, 1 ball, 2 goals, and a pitch.
And the referee.
Yeah. When there was no VAR.
Yeah, right. In addition, Vincent, to player scouting, coach scouting also plays an important role, both at club level and within the national team environment. How do you approach the scouting of coaches? Is it an ongoing process for you, or do you look only more closely at the coaching market when you sense a potential crisis?
No, it's an ongoing situation. It's also the most difficult one, because it's the most complex role in the football ecosystem. To be a successful head coach is incredibly complex, because you have to lead a group of players, you have to lead a staff, medical, physical, operational. You have to communicate with fans. You have to communicate with media. You have to report to directory. You have to report to ownership. It's incredibly complex, so that makes it also very difficult. For me, the choice for a coach is the most difficult one. It's the most complex one, because there are so many things that are coming together. He needs to have leadership, he needs to have communication skills, he needs to have tactical insight, he needs to have knowledge of the market, analytic skills, and all that. He needs to be a people manager, because he has to work with experts. So it's something that is still like, for me, it's still an ongoing development in my experience.
Yeah.
And I'm aware that it's complex, and also I'm very much aware that it is a role that is super stressful and sometimes very, very difficult.
Is there a difference between a good coach for a club and a good coach for a national team?
Absolutely. It's a difference. It's a difference. And there's a difference. If you, again, it's a bit like what I was telling in the beginning of this seminar. When you have to work with people that are players that are coming to the national team, it's the same for a coach. He will not change the way the player kicks on the ball, for instance. He needs to focus more on the well-being of the player,
Yeah.
to create a team. And of course, there needs to be a plan. You know, there needs to be a game plan. There needs to be a plan B, preferably. But the enthusiasm of players to play for the national team, the freshness, because it's also about how to manage the load. Some players come in after having played 3 times 90 minutes. Other players come in from injury or having played 3 times 45 minutes. So it needs a lot of flexibility in managing things. If you're too much focused on your own philosophy, then it will not work. You have to be very open to the situation that you are confronted with. You have to be flexible. And it's a different role. And it also, for now, the best coaches, they tend to choose for clubs. You have now, there's a bit of an evolution with Tuchel, with Pochettino, where you have coaches that are Nagelsmann, that take a national team for the experience. Like, okay, we want to go for the World Cup, but I wrote recently, 2 days ago, an interview with Pochettino, who said, I will return to Premier League and then I want to win it. Where like 20 years ago, you had like coaches, national team coaches were more coaches with the profile of Ancelotti, Advocaat, that were at the end of their career saying, okay, I did it all and now I'm going to have my life a bit more in a work-life balance, and then I will. So, but now it's with both of them, but the challenges are different, and the job is different.
Yeah. And also for you, I guess the evaluation process of a coach differs, because as a club coach, you have at least one match every week with the national team. Yeah, let's say around 10 games in a whole year, and not counting tournaments. So even for the technical director, evaluation of the coach, it's a different process.
That's true. That's true. And you have to listen as well to maybe a bit more than in a club. You have to listen a bit to what's living or what's in the minds of the most important players. Again, it's more about, are they having fun coming to the national team, and fun not in a way like we can
party.
We can go out and all that, but more like we feel good, we have a team, we want to go for it. So yes, it's different. It's football, but there are some differences, and you have to know those differences, because if you work as a technical director or as a coach in the same way as you tend to work in a club, you will face difficulties.
Yeah. Okay. You're responsible for very different departments and work with many different personalities, Vincent. To what extent do you adapt your leadership style to the individual? And which principles remain constant for you, regardless of who you are dealing with?
Well, then I refer to my 4 main points. So I always want people to be in line with the culture that we agreed upon, because before hiring someone, I always make very clear what I understand of culture. And I also ask people before they join, are you in line with that definition of culture? Secondly, it's about expertise. Do they bring the expertise? And do they want to work together? And that's thirdly, the structure. And are they in line with what we discussed upon? I'm someone that I'm very clear before hiring someone, and I leave a lot of possibilities to not accept the job or the challenge. But once someone is in, I'm there to help, facilitate, but I expect also that people are engaged with what they told
Yeah.
me before.
Yeah. In your view, what defines good leadership in a professional football club, and how does leadership differ in the national team setup compared to the club environment?
Well, in that way, there are no differences. Leadership for me is, first of all, stick to what you discussed when hiring a person.
Mm-hmm.
Be clear on that. Be also the one that guards the line and that gives confidence by guarding this line,
Mm-hmm.
because you have to, um, there's, in leadership, it's lead the ship. So
Yeah.
you have to know where to go. Sometimes you don't know, but at least you have to give the intention or the idea that you know where to go to. And a ship is also not a bad reference, in a way that you're all on the same ship or boat. So
Mm-hmm.
meaning that you have to show that you're there to stand for the choices you've made and the people you've chosen. Besides that, if you think that people are not in line or no longer in line, you have to give them the opportunity to express themselves, and then to tell them that maybe they're right, but as long as you are the leader,
Mm-hmm.
and you have to explain that, okay, but this is going to be the way it is. And sometimes that comes to the point where people have to leave or leave, because we're not in a, if you want to be successful, we're not in a, sacrifices have to be made.
Yeah.
That's the way it is. And we are in the business where where the winner, it's about winning. It's hard. It demands hard work. It demands sometimes sacrifices. But I think we all have to admit that it's the way it is.
Yeah.
And our business has something of a Jekyll and Hyde. If you're in, sometimes you want to be out. If you're out, you want to be in.
But most of
But
all, it has to be a passion. And when it's a
and
passion,
that's
it's
the
not
key
feeling
thing.
like working.
You're certainly right on that, and we have to be very grateful that we all can be part of our child dream in a way, because
Mm-hmm.
this is a small business, but it's great to live your passion.
Yeah. A question, it's related to leadership and scouting. And nowadays, with online meetings, is it still important for the head scout to be on site at the club to watch the team's training sessions and participate in meetings? Or do you think it's now possible to work remotely and focus on other tasks such as video scouting and live scouting? So, how important is it for you that the head scout is on site?
It's key.
To be on
It's key.
site.
It's key to be inside. It has to be a balance. But
Hmm.
the head scout needs to talk regularly with the sporting director, with the coach. He needs to feel. He needs to feel what's going on the
Hmm.
pitch as well. So I always demand from my head scout to be present at the club 1-2 days during the week, and every 3-4 games at a game, because he needs to feel
Yeah.
the vibes, the dynamics, because this is also, to create a team, it has to do a lot with dynamics. It's not about, just to put the right data on something.
Hmm.
It's a people business. So, and this is something where a head scout needs to be heard by the head coach, by the sports director, and why not by the ownership.
Yeah. My final question before we leave the word to the audience completely: how to deal with an owner who wants to know everything and perhaps assumes that he knows everything better?
Well, that's something that's up to the sports director, but mainly also to the CEO
Mm-hmm.
to discuss this before he gets hired. Because I believe that, you know, no matter how high our passion is and our willingness to work for a club or to have a job, you have to stick to your proud,
Mm-hmm.
to not be like a slave or someone that is just pushed away by an owner.
Yeah.
So you have to be firm, strong before you sign a contract and to make clear engagements. And it's not the role of an owner to be every day on the side. Of
Mm-hmm.
course, the owner is important. He takes responsibility, but you need to create with sports director and the CEO needs to create like one meeting a week with the owner, with the coach. You have to have a evaluation after a game. Clearly, this is clear because
Yeah.
the owner he needs to be he needs to gain respect as well or have respect, but he's not the one that leads the club. He's not the one with the expertise. So be firm. Be firm before you sign, and also stick to your firmness after signing.
Perfect. A question from Alain. What are your thoughts about multi-club ownership as the newest trend in football?
Well, to be honest, I'm not the biggest believer. Um, I see an added value in one big club from a big league having a like a feeder club
Mm-hmm.
in another league, but that's about it. Um, I know that I know that's very important. I know that's very difficult when I talk about culture to install it in one club. Um, if you have to install it in another club in another country, it's very complex. It's very difficult. So I'm not too fond to it because there always needs to be a, you know, what's the added value? And
Mm-hmm.
again, I see it when, for instance, you have a big team in England and that has a club in Switzerland where they can have young players to develop, and then those young players can become maybe one or two can make the step to the Premier League club. But I think it came up. I think it might disappear as well at a certain moment.
Okay. Question from Nicholas. Do you find it more successful to make decisions within a small group, or is it better to work within a larger group in order to have many opinions? How many people do you consider ideal, regardless of the club and the level?
Small, but not too small. I think to take an important decision, you need, when it comes to players, you need to have, I'd say, four people involved: owner,
Mhm.
CEO, sports director, coach. And for me, a coach can say no. He doesn't have to be involved in the total process. Oh, no, I forgot one. It's also the head of recruitment that needs to be
Mhm.
involved. Um, but the coach can only say no. So he doesn't need to be involved in everything. That's the head coach, head scouting that needs to be involved in that. So that's for me the best way of working.
Okay.
Owner, but at a later phase. So in the first phase, you have head scout, you have sporting director, then you go to the CEO, then you go to the coach, and then you go to the owner.
Okay. Question about the national team. During your preparations now for the World Cup, Do you take into account the possibility of extremely hot conditions, such as those that can occur in California during the summer? And if so, will you be preparing specifically for these conditions?
Well, fortunately, we have a good draw on that. So we will be in Seattle. We'll play in LA, and we have a really good health and performance director who has club experience and who knows how to handle this. So clearly, you need the same expertise. If you're going to a World Cup or European Cup or European Championships, you need to have the same expertise as you have in clubs. So for the World Cup, I'm really happy to be able to count on the best people possible.
Okay. Does the monitoring of dual nationality players at both youth and senior level fall entirely under your responsibility in collaboration with scouting, or is this the responsibility of a separate team within the organization that manages this increasingly important area?
Well, responsibility is going to be mine, at the end of the day, but on an operational way, it's a dedicated team that is working on it. But I have my full support, and they know how I want it, meaning that I want that people or the players that we believe have the level to one day become an A international, that we have to contact them. We have to explain our project, and then it's up to them. So if at the end of the day a player decides to choose another federation and we've done what we've could, I can live with that.
Okay. Back to scouting, Vincent. To what extent did you use physical data at your previous clubs, and how are you applying it now within the Belgian Federation?
Well, of course, football has become a very physical sport. So physical data are key. You know that there's a difference in overall running, in sprints, in high intensity, so on. So for sure, we used to use data that are learning more about the capability of a player. And that's the same thing what we do with the national team. So in that way, there's not a lot of difference. We were the first to believe in a holistic approach in screening a player. So not only physical, but also injury prevention or injury statistics, in the social aspect of a player. Where was he born? What was his childhood? What was his track record on school? Those things. So it takes a lot of efforts to really have a clear view on a certain player, and it's about culture. It's about complementary. It's about sometimes climate. It's about sometimes a diet. Because players that are coming straight from South America or from Africa, you also have to be aware that they have different eating culture. So all those things that can play a part in the performance needs to be looked after, and physical is one of them. But it's not the only one, but it's of course a very important one.
Yeah. Talking about physical data, how important do you consider these data in the overall scouting and player evaluation process?
Well, it's an important one, but it's not the key one. I've had players that had tremendous physical data, but couldn't handle the stress. So you can have a fantastic athlete, but who's like losing all his abilities, his physical abilities, just when when the time is there, when the heat spots the kitchen. So that's why I'm more into the holistic approach, and it's an overall estimation and scouting. It's not just about physical. It's not just about technical, tactical. It's also mental. It's also sociological. That makes it very challenging and also worthwhile.
A question from Gerhard. What were the key factors of why you were signing a player? For example, budget, relation to agents, scouting reports?
Well, we had I would say, we always knew that we wanted to be the first. I would say the one of the most important meetings with the scouting team was 2 weeks after the summer window. And so, because that was after the holiday break for the scouts, and then we came together, and then we said, okay, let's choose the countries, the markets where we want to aim for. We had a discussion on why, because sometimes it can change, markets can change, can evolve. And then we were talking about, okay, what's our squad, where we think we can use something for next mercato, which is winter, which is a difficult one, but we always wanted to be ready for injuries, for disappointments. So it was always a matter of being very proactive, very on it, very clear in who's responsible for what. So we made also we made choices. So one scout had these 4 or 5 countries, another one had the others, and then the others. And again, we were very selective in markets. And what I demanded from every scout was to know these markets like no one else. So I wanted them to know who was number 5 in the top scorer list. I wanted them to know who was number 3 in giving assists, or number 2 in clean sheets as a goalkeeper. So that was the way we worked. And that's, of course, different in a national team, because in a national team, you just want to know what are the players that you think can help you to become European champion or world champion. There you have like 40 something players. And then you want to know these players. So it's like an internal scouting. It's like a player in-depth analysis. And besides that, it's about opponents and okay, who we gonna play against, how we can analyze these players, the team. So it's different, but there's some similarities.
Question personally, a question. How was the transition from a position in a club to the federation? Which were the main difficulties for you at that moment?
Well, again, you don't have the payroll power, so you have to manage the players in a different way. You have to focus on key things. You have time for strategic projects on longer term, where you can have an impact on the health of Belgian football, which I'm trying to do. You have to invest in a good relationship with your providers, with the teams. I would say it's less stressful, but it's sometimes more complex, because you don't have this payroll power. You have to perform without having a clear impact. And when you go to the World Cup, when you go to European Championships, you have to have success with those players that you don't know that much, as if it were players at a club, in a period of between 3 to 6 weeks. So less impactful, interesting, because you need to focus on your main message.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to be impactful, you have to understand that you don't have a lot of opportunities to bring a message, and that's but it's interesting. It's interesting, sure.
Okay, that was a question from Catalin. Now, a question from Vincent, to Vincent. I don't know whether you are into books, but if there's one book you would advise to a young scout or a football professional, which one would it be?
Well, then I would go for Jim Collins, From Good to Great, because it's not specifically working for our business, but it's just, I think, the best management book I've read, because it's about how to improve in what you're doing. And I wanted to, and I still want to have everyone involved, from greenkeeping to cleaning staff, to top players, to the CEO. I want to have everyone involved in the process. That's why I was the one that decided to give, when we had the first title in 2016 with Club Brugge, to pay everyone an extra month of like a month low,
The salary.
salary.
Yeah.
Because it's a team thing, and you need to know how to be able to, when things are okay, how can it be good? When things are good, how can they become better? When things are better, how can we make them great? And this book was for me a very practical, very interesting lecture on, okay, I see things that I can implement on my business. And whether it's football, whether it's manufacturing, whether it's I don't know what.
Okay.
Ask your family to give it as a
As a present.
Christmas present. Yeah.
Can you explain, Vincent, the idea behind the Youth Futures national teams and how the idea was created?
Well, it was an idea that was created in 2008, when there wasn't really professional development and youth education in Belgium. So it was a way where, from the federation, players were selected that were not selected at a professional level by professional clubs, to give them some platform, and it worked. But this is now something that is integrated in the work of the professional football clubs, who have a great education program, a great academy. Club Brugge is doing really well. Anderlecht, Genk, even Ghent, Antwerp. So many teams are doing a great job over these last years, that this future project has been stopped. I took the decision to stop it because it has been integrated in the clubs, and the heart of football is in the clubs. It's not in the federation, because heart of football is where football is practiced every day.
Yeah.
And that's not in the federation. So it was a project that was really interesting in 2008, but now, luckily, it has been taken over the last 5 years by the clubs. So really good job done in 2008 by the federation. Really good job done now by the clubs, and federation can focus on other things.
And who was the first country to join Belgium in that idea? Do you remember?
Well, I think there were many. I remember, I think Denmark and some other were joining. And it was good because it brought some players above the water that were not on the radar in the national youth teams. But now it's totally clear that top clubs don't miss talents anymore, and it's about young and late mature, and this is something that you know is taken care of by the clubs, and we have to focus on other things.
Some questions about scouting. The first one is from Tom. Do you believe a head scout should still be actively involved in analyzing players, or can it be equally effective or even a strength if the head scout focuses primarily on leading the scouting team and preparing all relevant information for the sporting director?
Well, preferably you need to have the eye as well, because otherwise you're more like a secretary coordinator, and then you're not head, but you're more coordinator. So for me, it's in the best worlds, you have a head of scouting who had his experiences as a successful scout, has also some management skills, and has a credibility to know also when the reports are coming, to be able to say, I don't think so. So for me, both are important.
Yeah. From Nicholas, this question: if you, as a sporting director, have to make decisions, but the head scout is completely against them, while you are fully convinced about the player, what do you do?
I will not do it, because I will only start thinking about something when the head scout is coming up with something. And if the head scout, or when it comes from my own network, I will ask the head scout. And if the head scout says, I'm really negative, and he has the right arguments, it will be off my desk in 2 seconds.
Okay, that's clear. Question from Jessica. When you were scouting in Colombia, how did you take into account that many of the club matches are played at high altitudes?
Yeah, well, that's something that, when you have a player that you want to get to Belgium, it depends if the player is living there on a high altitude, or living at the seaside. It's a bit different, but at the end it will not make a very big difference to sign him or not if a player can confirm or can perform and confirm on high altitude. Well, in a lot of cases, he has a big VO2 max, so he will be able to perform really good at sea level.
Yeah. About squad building, Vincent, for instance, Hans van Aken at Club Brugge, how important is it that he's always there for so many years in a league that the best players normally leave after 1 or 2 years? If you look back, how difficult would it be to find a similar profile to win year after year?
Well, to replace Hans will be a big challenge. And Hans is one of the rare players that where we were still able to convince him to stay, also because of the fact that the club was still making steps up. I think it would have been a different story if Club Brugge would have going down the hill, and then he would have felt like, okay, now is the time to go, because for Hans mainly the sporting side was very important, and of course you need to have your you need to take your financial responsibilities as well. When you block a player to go to another club, then you need to take financial responsibilities as well. But I think that that Hans evolved together with the club, and that's that's a great thing to see. And again, we're living in times where it's difficult to find players that are considering a longer stay at the same club. It's not impossible. Sometimes you see it. But it's more a matter also of the personality of the player. You cannot force it. It has to come together.
Question from Roy. Did you have determined player profiles at Club Brugge to recruit players, but also to integrate the youth players in first team?
Yes, we had a quota on the number of youth players that should be part of the A team, not in the first team, like the starting 11, because that's up to the coach. But for sure in the squad before the season. So we wanted to have a quota on a number of players coming from the academy. Besides that, it's we also had of course our a description on the different positions that we preferred, but not too extended, because if you make it too extended, you will either not find it or either be frustrated with it. So and it also depends a bit on the system that you're playing. I'm not a believer of culture in a way that you say, okay, we always play this system. No, I don't believe in that. I also don't believe in the fact that in academy or in youth, you have to play one system. You have to play several systems. You have to play, that's part of development. Players need to know what it is to play 3 in the back, 2 up front, 1 up front, 4-4-2, 3-5-2, 3-4-3. That's a learning process. And for me, it's also the prerogative of a coach to use different systems. When it comes to principles, for instance, Club Brugge needs to play forward. So that's a principle. That's not a system. And we saw it in the past in Club Brugge. We had success with Hugo Broos playing 4-4-2, with Ton Solliet playing 4-3-3, with Ivan Leko playing 3-5-2. But they were successful, and they were also accepted by the fans because they saw the same principles: pressure forwards, trying to make one goal more than the opponent. So that's more important than a system.
Yeah, the last 2 questions, Vincent. One of your key areas of income in Belgium, you mentioned transfers, not media rights or sponsors. How may you plan budget based on transfers, where transfers revenues are not plannable?
They're plannable.
They're plannable.
Yes.
Okay.
If you really make a strategic objective and a goal of it, I would not say it's plannable to say it's going to be, I don't know, 15 or 20, but you have to be firm enough and brave enough and qualified enough to just say, okay, this is what we will get out of the transfer market, period. Because we are a selling market, we are a development market, and this is what we do. So to not plan it, for me, it's a bit being running away from responsibility. It's a bit of it's a bit too easy.
Yeah.
Of course, you have to do it in a realistic way. If you say, "Oh, we will sell players every year for 100 million," it's stupid. But it's our business model. So if it's the business model, you need to be the best at it. And if you're the best at it, you need to gain confidence in it and to say, okay, I think we can have like 10 million or 5 or 3, whatever, every year out of the transfer market.
Last question is also a very interesting one. Do you think a scout is well recognized and paid in relation to the impact he can have on a club financially?
Well, again, it will take a good discussion. If that would be the question of a scout who would sit in front of me and soliciting for a job, I would tell him, okay, how do you look at this? So you want to make a lot of money? And I would relate it to a certain success. And of course, a lot of scouts will say, yes, but if I'm bringing players for small money that are sold for a lot of money, then I brought money in the club. I would be pretty open as long as it is in line with, because scouts are not the final decision takers. So they're part of their advice is important, but at the end of the day, they are not the ones that need to pay the incoming players. But having said this, I'm in favor of bonuses, not related to specifically to transfers, because I think it's part of their jobs, but just bonuses in getting an overall result. And that's not only about we made money out of this player, but did we win trophies? Did we win a championship? Did we win a cup? Did we perform well in Champions League or whatever? And again, I refer to what I installed in Club Brugge. If we won a title, the cleaning lady or guy was very happy because he had 1 month's salary extra and he was part of the team and of the celebration process.
Vincent Mannaert, thank you very, very much for this very interesting webinar. I speak in name of the whole audience. I'm sure of that. And for our audience, remember this session will be or is recorded and saved to the website of EAS for access afterwards. In a few days, you can review this webinar. For all of you, a very good holiday season as well. And in January, February, there will be some new webinars. So that was it for today. Enjoy the evening and see you next time.